Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes
Hi, it's Zoe from Star Wars Geek Girl. I'm once again not here with Lizzy, but I have Jonah this week from Geeky Bubble, and I'm very excited.
Yes, I'm happy to be back. Always
Yeah,
happy to chat
I
with the
think-
Star Wars geek girls.
I think I'm alternating between you and Sal and Axel for now. Like I think
Nice.
that's my plan because I had them one last week and it was great because Axel's the best.
Yes.
And Sal, he's cool too. But
Oh
Axel's
yes,
the
that's
best.
right. Sal, that's right.
We're going to talk about the latest episode of The Bad Batch, episode 7, Battle Scars. And what are your spoiler-free thoughts?
Spoiler-free thoughts. I was just so on the edge of my seat watching this episode, even though I knew what was coming. They always managed to find ways to just wrap me in and pull all the feels out of me.
Yeah, I think this one might be my favorite so far. And I feel like I say that every week. But this one was like really like, to me, this one's like just kind of pulled me in a lot more than not that the others haven't pulled me in, but this one like really got me, I think.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. It's funny how they consistently get better, the episodes, and they just started off in an awesome place. And it's just, I'm always amazed with how they just the caliber of writing and the animation just beats the other episode over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's great. I guess we can't say much more without spoiling it. So spoilers ahead if you haven't seen it and would like to not be spoiled. There's your warning. You've been warned. So we start the episode and they've just finished like another mission. So they did stay with Sid. They're still with Sid. Which I think when you were last on, we were like, well, are they gonna stay there or are they not? They definitely are, at least for now.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought, wow, these guys just either they're just very slow to change. I mean, because we saw with everything that brought them there, it was just one thing after another. So they had to go with the flow. But here they kind of found themselves into a routine and now they're kind of hesitant in changing that, but they're, questioning and keeping what Rafa and Trace have in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this is like, we're jumped in like the end of whatever mission they did. They rescued a lizard. I guess that's like their main thing is just rescuing things like droids and baby rancors and a lizard.
Yeah. But then we don't know what purpose they serve ultimately. Like Sid said, we don't. I don't know. Don't care.
Yeah.
They're stew for all I know.
I hope it's not stew. But Omega named the lizard Ruby, which is just cute. But while they're having like ship troubles on their way out because nothing can ever go smoothly in Star Wars. And they get it, and that's like a really like action-packed like entry to the episode. It's like all this going on. It's very intense.
Yeah, I love it when they have like a cold open like that, where it's like in the middle of the action and you're just trying to catch up.
And media res. I learned that one in film school.
Wait, what is it?
And media res. It's Latin because pretentious, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I see.
That's like the official term for it. Yeah. But so they escape because like their hyperdrive wasn't working, but they fixed it. Or Echo fixed it, not all of them. Echo gets credit. And they get back to Sid. And we learn that Wrecker and Omega have a little tradition now that they do at the end of their missions where they go get some popcorn at a stall. So that to me implies that like we've obviously seen this mission and we saw the one they did the Rancor obviously and then with Trace and Rafa. But I feel like the fact they have a tradition to me implies that like they've done a lot now, not just like those three. So
yeah, for sure.
So it's I don't know what the timeline is as far like how far in we are, but
yeah,
I feel like sorry, go.
Oh no. Yeah, I feel like my friend told me actually that
when Hunter says that they've had at least 20 cartons of Mantel mix, you kind of make the math in your head and it comes out to 10 missions. And you're like, whoa, where did those 10 missions go? I wish we could have seen that.
Yeah. I like that kind of like implication though, because they're not like drawing it out. Just kind of, but so I'm curious to know like how long we are, because obviously we started like Revenge of the Sith, like Order 66. So I'm curious to know how far we are from that. Like, are we a couple months, or are we still just like a couple weeks? Like,
yeah,
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I wish they would clarify the placement of it, but I imagine it's been a month or two.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I'm thinking like once we get like a year into it, that's kind of like the Ahsoka novel and Ahsoka becoming like Fulcrum and like all that stuff starting to like happen. So like I just want to know where we are. They need a calendar.
Totally understandable.
Just curious. But they have their tradition to get the little popcorn, like the popcorn from Galaxy's Edge. That's what it made me think of, because they have like the colored popcorn, and it was like that. And then, do you want to say what happened next?
And then my husband comes into the picture, and he reintroduces himself as, Captain Rex. It's Captain Rex again. And I'm so happy to have seen him. So happy.
And he has like a hood. He's sitting in like the corner with like his hood up. And then you see his eyes and you're like, I know who it is. Like,
At first I remember having to go a little bit closer on my screen because I thought that's not Maul, right? Like I don't want it to be Maul. And thankfully it came out to be Rex, especially when you see him take a drink and you see the armor on his arm. And I thought, yes,
it's Rex. And I was excited because I don't think I like Rex as much as you, but I do like Rex a lot. So it was good to see him. We're halfway through, so I figured we'd be seeing him soon, and now we have. So
yeah. And one other thing that popped into my head, which I wish I had mentioned in my podcast, but I'll say it here. Captain Rex was originally named Alpha in the original concept for him. And it was eventually discovered that, with Anakin, Ahsoka, R2, and Alpha, that would have been too many A's, too much alliteration. So they decided to change him to Rex. But the fact that he was originally called Alpha, and he has this meeting with Omega. So you have Alpha and Omega talking with each other. And I thought that's so cool.
I love Rex and Omega's little interaction. And she immediately is like, you're a phase 1 clone. He's like, oh, how do you know? And she's like, well, there's lines on your face. And
you're old. Rex. You're getting old. You're getting old.
Poor Rex. He's had a rough go of it. But so I'm trying to remember the exact conversation. It's been a little bit since I watched the episode. But they talk somehow like the chips come up. Because Crosshair.
Right. Yes, that's right. Because Wrecker starts to feel a little bit of pain, and Rex suspects that he knows what's going on. And of course, Tech is like, "Oh yeah, no, not to worry. Crosshair was the only one to be affected."
And Rex is immediately like blasters out because obviously, we know what he went through with Jesse and all the other clones, so he's pretty understandably not trusting of them once he learns this.
Yeah.
But they end up agreeing to meet on Braca in the shipbreaking yard to go to an old Republic cruiser and get it taken out, like Rex did in Order 66.
Yeah.
And for people who played Jedi Fallen Order, you'll remember Braca is where that game starts and where Cal Kestis was working with the Scavengers Guild. Is that what they're?
Oh, the Scrappers Guild.
Scrappers Guild. Close enough. So that was just a cool little I was like, hey, I know that place.
Yeah.
Fun. And so they go there, and that's where the one shot we see in the trailer where like they're climbing over and like and they have to like kind of climb through like all the ruins of the ship because it's just kind of sitting there and it's all trashed. And it reminded me a lot of in The Rise of Skywalker when Rey was climbing through like the remains of the Death Star and trying to get to like the vault.
Right.
That's just what it made me think of.
Yeah. I imagine Omega's reaction of her being impressed by the size of them was Rey's reaction when she was younger and had to, take up this role in order to survive. So yeah, I imagine that could have been her reaction back on Jakku. So yeah, I really love the contrast between Omega's wonder and then you see Rey working when we get to her in The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think of that connection. I just thought of like because they're like jumping and it's like wet. That's mostly because it's wet. That's why it makes me think more of Rise of Skywalker.
That water was very suspicious.
The water, and there was like I don't think it said like Dianoga, but to me I was like, oh,
it did.
Like,
it did.
Technical thing in the water, Dianoga.
It was just too scary for me
and it pulled Wrecker in, and it was like, I know this isn't how they're gonna kill Wrecker, but if it is, I was like, there's that little nag in your brain, like, but what if this is the end?
No.
That's how it was when I forget the name of the episode, Legacy of Mandalore, I think, in Rebels, where Gar Saxon like shoots and there's like that shot of Sabine, and that shot's like a few seconds, but in those few seconds my whole my brain went back and forth between like, they're not going to kill Sabine, and they're like, what if they're killing Sabine? Like, no, they're not going to do it. Felt like forever. It was great. Bad Batch. So they tangle with the Dianoga, and then they get to the medical facility, and they're like prepping it and like turning it on, and it's not super sanitary.
No, not sterile at all.
No.
But it's the only thing they've got. And I love that Rex points out that, we can't do it on Camino. And Tech's like, no, this will do fine.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where the show, at least this season, is headed, where they're going to have to go to Camino if that's what they intend to do with Crosshair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't seen Crosshair in a little while now.
We haven't, and I'm curious what he's up to and what sort of missions the Empire has been putting him in, and I guess in a way conditioning him even more, because I feel like with each experience he's internally rationalizing what he's doing and maybe even believing that what he's doing is right, even though of course they're doing work on him on his chip. So yeah, I'm curious what the effect is now, and how he will be when if they remove the chip. How will he react? Is he going to be himself, or is he going to be changed because of the chip?
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting because we saw like with Rex, like he went to really being himself when they took the chip out.
Right.
And same with Wrecker in this episode. But I feel like their effect with the chip was so short, and they didn't, not that they didn't do anything bad and like regrettable, but it wasn't like, I feel like by the time we finally catch up to Crosshair, there's going to be up to maybe even a year worth of this, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, like even Wolf later on in Rebels, you can tell that he's still on edge, especially when he sees the Jedi. So you can tell that there's been some trauma there. And I'm curious what it's going to look like for Crosshair.
Yeah. And I wonder, like, like you mentioned Wolf, so I wonder like if we'll be seeing here how like Rex meets up with Wolf and Gregor, and if the Bad Batch had anything to do with that, and like how that happened, because we still don't really know that despite finding out years ago.
Right.
So it's interesting. I think the series is going to answer a lot of questions about like the chips and stuff, and also probably give us new questions too, because that's how Star Wars works.
Yeah. And I'm hoping Tech gave him the information that he needs in order to later perform, not himself, but like find ways to perform that operation on Wolf and Gregor and anyone else he comes across, because I guess the way it came across in this episode, they just didn't know where the location was, and that's why it was important for him to finish off the scanner so that way they can find precisely where it was. And then now that he has that information, I'm hoping he gave it to Rex so that Rex can use that moving forward.
And we could even have like a whole like clone rescue operation,
right?
Like, it could be great.
Yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, I'm curious because now that I'm thinking about it, we haven't seen Crosshair since episode 3.
Yeah, replacements.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It's been a while without Crosshair. Yeah, so they get into the medical facility and it's not very clean at all. And they decide to do Wrecker first because he's the one that has been getting the headaches and stuff. And they're scanning and Wrecker finally snaps and it's horrible and awesome at the same time.
I know.
He really goes on like a rampage and you really see how strong he is and he's really like hunting down like Omega and Rex and the other members of the Bad Batch. And it feels very like horror movie.
Yeah.
I think the parallel I thought of was in season 1 of The Mandalorian was it The Prisoner?
Yes.
I'm not good at episode names. But obviously it's a very different like situation, but like I feel like it was that kind of like same vibe to it where you have like the character kind of just filling a character we know and love filling the role of like horror movie monster, and it's awesome and scary.
yeah, it was very like you said, horror, and I was fearing for them. I thought he was going to snap Hunter's neck. I thought that's not where I want this to go. And I'm thankful that Omega stepped in and distracted him.
Mm-hmm. And then he almost got Omega, but
yeah,
he was tossing all of them around, especially Tech and like Echo and Wrecker.
It was really
Rex.
It was really impressive too, because normally when he's fighting droids, he tends to be very excited and happy doing what he does. And here it's like that's all been drained out of him, and it's very calculating and terrifying. And I love that Omega, even though she was scared, she knew that this wasn't him, and it doesn't really change the way she sees him. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing, because sometimes when someone does something to you, you can't help but like flinch or wince if that person comes closer to you. And so I'm glad she didn't suffer any side effects from that experience.
Yeah, and I think the thing too with Wrecker was like I feel like we knew he was strong, just like that was like his whole thing, like he's like the strong one, but I feel like it's different seeing that strength used on like characters we like already know and love, because like when he tosses a battle droid or whatever, you're like cool, but when he's tossing like Rex, who we know to be a very powerful character, it's like whoa.
It was like a rag doll, throwing a rag doll around.
It was, and like you said, he had lost that kind of like personality where he's like making like jokes and laughing, like that there wasn't any of that. He was just focused in a way that he usually isn't. But
one thing that I also found very illuminating, and I'm sure we saw it before, it's just I didn't process it at the time, and I saw it more here. But Wrecker, when he eventually apologizes to Omega, he talks about how he was trying to stop himself from doing it. And you can actually see evidence of that when he's holding the blaster and it's shaking in his hands. And he is struggling and saying, "Good soldiers follow orders," because he doesn't want to do this to Omega. And when he's apologizing, you get the impression that he was aware the whole time. Like he was completely controlled and he wasn't able to do anything about it. And I thought that adds another layer of terror to it, because Jesse was probably another character who in the back of his mind thought, this isn't right and I can't do anything about it. And it's heartbreaking all over again to think about those events.
Oh, I think we see that with Rex, I think really prominently too. in Shattered. Like he's shaking and he's trying to like get out fives, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that adds like another layer of horror to Order 66, because obviously it's horrible, you know, for the Jedi getting killed, but I think it's also really horrible for the clones having that little bit of autonomy they had kind of ripped from them. And they, you know, I think the fact that they're aware during it just makes it even more horrifying.
Yeah. Very
You know?
sinister. Yeah.
And it's scary.
Yeah.
I think Order 66 is, and I'm sure this isn't a new, and I'm sure most people think this, but it's definitely I think the most like horrifying part of Star Wars, you know.
I would say, yeah, for sure.
And like it's very good like story wise, but also horrible. But fortunately Rex is able to stun Wrecker and they can get his chip out, and then everything's okay and everyone gets their chips out. And it's all right. We made it.
Good day.
And like you said, Omega doesn't seem to have any like ill will towards Wrecker. He apologizes, but she's like, you know, like, it wasn't you. She's very understanding of that. I think
Yeah.
he's very compassionate. That seems to be a strength of hers.
Yes.
And it might, you know, be a fault at some point. I think that makes her like, well, we saw with Fennec, that made her a little bit more like a little too trusting with Fennec and got her into trouble, but it's a good strength to have.
It's true. Yeah, it's very Ezra-like in that way.
Yeah. Oh, I hope they don't run them all.
Oh no, I hope not.
Yeah.
If they do see anyone from Crimson Dawn, I would love it to be either Dryden Voss or Kira, because that would be awesome. Especially Dryden, since his model was in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, so it'd be great to see him in a bigger role.
I think Kira might still be on Corellia.
Oh, that's right. I forget. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I forgot
I think
the
she's
timeline.
still on Corellia. But
Yeah,
like if
that's
we
right.
do like a little time jump, then we could definitely see Kira.
Yeah.
I want to see Kira in more things because I don't know what happened to her and it makes me mad. Okay, it's fine. I love Kira so much, but
she is cool. And I do really want more content of her and Enfys Nest. Kira. Where are all these characters? Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. But they get all their chips out, and then that's pretty much like the end. Is their chips are out and they leave, and Rex talks to someone on his comlink about meeting up with them at the rendezvous point. So like this was planned, and we don't really know who it was. This isn't yet another mysterious.
It's true. Figure. Yeah, I'm assuming that, you know, if we're to rely on the events from the last episode, then it possibly is just Rafa and Trace, just because it looks like they're working with each other. But it could also be someone else that we don't know, and I hope we get to see that at some point.
Well, because Rex does say in the beginning of the episode that he found them through Rafa and Trace. So was he the mysterious figure from last episode?
Yes,
and like
it sounds, yeah.
So like, is he back with that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I like sort of want it to be someone new, just because I like bringing new people in.
I see.
We'll see. But yeah, so Rex leaves, and Hunter is, you know, thanks him. It's like, thanks for getting those out.
Yeah,
they're very lucky Rex showed up when he did, because I think if Wrecker had, you know, kind of snapped like on the ship with them if they were out somewhere, or like, you know, like things could have gone much more poorly, either for Wrecker or for everybody else, or both.
Yeah, both.
Most likely both.
Yeah, that would have been horrible if that had happened without Rex stepping in to stop it. But I do like what Hunter tells Rex, and it's the fact that if he is ever in a bind, you know, he knows where to find us or how to contact us. And I really love that, because it sets it up for him possibly coming back in a later point. And you know, hopefully it'll be an interesting mission outside of, you know, chip related stuff.
Yeah. Well, because Rex says he's still like, he says like, my loyalty is to the Republic, and Rex is, we start to see him, you know, wanting to oppose the Empire. So he's connected, and it was definitely implied, I think, that Trace and Rafa were doing the same thing, working with people to do that. So I'm sure it's not just Rex, Trace, and Rafa.
I'm sure there's others. Yeah.
It's obviously going to be small at this point in the timeline, but where it's slowly building up, and I would like to see the Bad Batch come into that. I am curious, I guess, what makes Rex, because we know by Rebels he's no longer directly involved in that. So like, what, does he just decide, like, do the white hair start coming in? He's like, all right, I'm done for now, or like, does something else happen? I'm curious.
Yeah, I brought that up to my mom, and she suggested that it possibly is something like I helped I helped the Bad Batch, I helped Wolf, I helped Gregor. This is all that I can do, and I think I'm just gonna sit this out and just live my life peacefully, as my choice. But then I suggested, what if it's something more dramatic? And what if it was something like, because I know some people have been bringing up the topic of a possible clone rebellion, where they either try to fight for the freedom of the clones, or who knows what's going on there. For that to happen, of course, people like Rex and the Bad Batch need to be free of their chips so that they can be willing participants in this. But what if that were to fail, obviously? And then that's what motivates Rex to be like, you know what, I'm done. I've lost too many people. I'm going to sit this out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, because it could be something. Well, we do know from Rebels too, the Empire no longer seems to assume him dead, because when the Empire comes, so like, he has to get on their radar again, because according to Tech, they're like, oh, you were assumed dead. So like, he has to do something to get on their radar again.
Yeah.
As a Cody fan, I want it to be something with Cody. Maybe it's a clone rebelling with Cody. Maybe it's something else with Cody. I just want Cody to show up.
I knew you were going to say
I just
Cody.
want Cody. I want to know. He's so cool. Yeah, that's it. Cody.
And then Cody dies in Rex's arms.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want something to happen, and I want Cody to be there. I just think that would be cool. And I reserve the right to my opinion.
Yes.
Because I want Cody. I just think it'd be neat. Yeah, it was a very good episode. It's always good to see Rex. I hope we'll definitely see him. I think we'll see him again. That's like, I don't know if we'll see like Trace and Rafa again or anyone else, but I think we'll see Cody again, or Rex again, and Cody.
Yeah, if they do anything, I mean, even Clone Wars did it, but if they do anything like Clone Wars and what Rebels did in introducing characters and then bringing them back again for like the series finale, where you see Hondo and Wolf and Gregor and Martin. So it's like, I would like for them to show up in a similar manner, where it's like the Bad Batch need help in some way, and these characters are willing to offer their help.
I don't even know if it has to be a series finale thing, because I feel like Rex was a fairly consistent.
Yeah. But just the idea of making those connections and then having those connections resurface down the line.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. I'd like Rex to show up a little more. And just be a little more sort of like the role he played in Rebels, where he's not by no means a main character, but he's still a consistent like side character, because we don't really have any of those in Bad Batch. Maybe Sid at this point seems the closest we have,
who's really fed up with the Bad Batch and who just might sell them out at any point. Yeah.
I assume Fennec is going to be playing a sort of antagonist role.
Yeah, she's definitely coming back again.
And then obviously Crosshair and maybe his team. But, I don't know. This show has like, I feel like with Clone Wars and Resistance, you sort of had an idea of where things were going. Maybe not like where each individual adventure was going to take, but you had an idea of like what to expect in some ways. And I feel like with Rebels and with this show, it's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I got nothing.
Yeah, it's true. I just know that at some point Omega, they will have to lose Omega, very similarly to how Mandalorian lost Grogu. And if she gets taken back to Kamino, assuming that the Kaminoans hired Fennec, then they're going to have to take the fight to Kamino.
Or could Omega pull an Ezra and escape herself? But while escaping herself, could she get Crosshair? Could she somehow, while captured on Kamino, kind of be the one that rescues Crosshair, gets his chip out, and then he helps her officially
That would be
escape,
interesting.
and they reunite with the Bad Batch?
I don't think they would do it without guns blazing.
No.
So, but
Well, they
would
could
be
meet.
fun.
They could meet, like in Rebels, when like Ezra was escaping, and then the ghost who gets there and helps him finish it out. You know,
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Or it
Because
could
I
be-
don't want Crosshair to die. So
I like-
whatever gets him out and in
Or
a
it would be
breathing
really
manner.
interesting. What if Omega gets his chip out in this hypothetical scenario, but Crosshair is like doesn't want to go with them
Yeah,
now
yeah.
because he's been doing that so long, you know.
Yeah, I told my mom that, and she's like, you know what, you can just shush because I don't want to hear your theories. And it's totally possible. It's possible that he could be like, no, this is who I am.
Well, and we obviously know he has his little crew now. Could he grow loyalty to them? You know, we haven't seen them and what they're up to, but
Right.
like, could he kind of grow a connection with them? Maybe not as much as he had with the Bad Batch, but still like a bond that he doesn't want to throw away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Many things could happen.
Indeed.
I'm excited. Knowing Star Wars won't be anything I would have thought of, but
Right.
still exciting. Yeah, that's it. I don't have anything else.
No, yeah, those are like the main parts of the episode.
Yeah, we did it. I made my notes and we got through them. So I guess we'll wrap up. Thank you. This is a shorter episode. I feel like it's hard to talk about this episode without being like, yeah, it was awesome. It was. And you just have to watch it, I think. I think it's hard to like explain, especially like that Wrecker scene, which was my favorite in the whole episode. Was like, it's hard to just describe it and fully like get the effect across.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, like the emotions are something that you need to experience for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And then, we did forget, after Wrecker wakes up, Omega gives him some popcorn.
Oh yeah, it's very sweet.
That's their tradition.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like in her pocket, so it probably like lit in it. That's what I think of. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
probably gross popcorn, but yeah, but it's very cute. It's a great episode. I still think Omega and Wrecker are the best. And this episode just cemented that for me, I think.
Yeah, I really love how you thought that she was going to have more bonding with Hunter, and she has, especially towards the beginning of the series. But it's definitely progressed where it's just like Omega and Wrecker are the iconic duo in this series so far.
Yes. I do hope we see a little more. We saw like a little bit of her with Echo and maybe like a tiny with Tech, so I hope we see more of that too.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I know some people are really, like antsy for that kind of content, but honestly, I can see bits of Tech in myself, and I am not a child person. I don't get along with kids. If I do, I just make it as short as possible. And so I feel like Tech is that in some way, where he's just like, she's a kid, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm kind of allergic. So but Echo definitely comes across as the mother of the group, where he's tells her not to touch things, or tells her how to do things and whatnot.
Yeah. It's the Django gene. The dad gene in all of them.
The dad gene.
Yeah. Thank you very much for talking Bad Batch with me. It's always great. I was planning on inviting you for whatever Rex episode was anyway, and then this week I was like, well, if Lizzy can't make it again, I'll invite Jonah and alternate, and so it just lined up very perfectly.
Oh, yeah, definitely always happy to talk about Rex.
Always exciting. What I was gonna say, oh, I guess we'll do the plugs. Do you want to do yours first?
Sure. So listeners can find me on Twitter with the handle @BlueJGuys. And they can also find the podcast that I do with my mom on @GeekyBubblePod. And they can find that podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and all the other big podcast platforms. And they can also find my writings on dorksideoftheforce.com.
Yay. So for Star Wars Geek Girl, there's the Star Wars Geek Girl Facebook page, and then we're on Twitter and Instagram @SWGeekGirl and StarWarsGeekGirl.com. I would do like a quiz every Wednesday. This week's quiz is which Star Wars dad are you? And then I do like a writing thing every Friday. There's no Rogue Rebels on, so do you want to do those or should I?
Oh, you can go ahead and I can do it. I haven't done them so far. So let's see.
Okay.
Rogue Rebels. You can find the Rogue Rebels family podcast on Spotify, Podbean, SoundCloud, iTunes, all that fun stuff. You can also find their Facebook page at The Rogue Rebels, Instagram, The Rogue Rebels. Twitter is Rogue Rebels Fam. Twitch, where Axel does all his fun stuff, is @Rogue Rebels, and TikTok, The Rogue Rebels, and I love following them there too. And finally, in case you didn't catch it, theroguerebels.com for all of their content.
There's a theme there, I think.
Yes, there is. I see a pattern of some kind.
Yeah, Axel's, I didn't write it this week, I forgot. Axel's streams are on Thursdays at 6, I think. Let me check. It's not my planner. I write it in my planner. I'm like, I have to watch Axel play games. Yeah, it's Thursdays at 6 Eastern time. I think it's 3 West Coast time. If you're somewhere else, I'm sorry, I don't know, but you can look it up. Yeah. Thank you. So go check all of those things out and follow them and like them and listen, whatever you do. Thank you again, Jonah, for showing up. It's very fun.
Happy to have done it.
Thank you for listening. May the force be with you. I was Zoe.
And I was Jonah.
Thank you again for listening. I feel like I said that 4 times. Thank you again for listening, and goodbye.
Star Wars Geek Girls. They're geek girls that like Star Wars. And sometimes cry.